Hey guys, Michael here. I hope that you are all doing well today. So, with the patch being announced and it being a fairly significant one, and as I mentioned in yesterday's video, that is really going to impact the campaigns that I've got going on the channel right now, the Let's Plays. I decided to get back to doing some other videos that I've kind of had planned for a while, but they're more of like fun videos, videos that I hope can be like discussion videos, just to get the community here talking through their own opinions on these things. So this first one that I want to do, it's really the most important video I've ever made, right? Because it's what are my 5 favorite factions. I mean, who doesn't love a good top 5 list, right? So, again, this is intended to be a really just something to get a conversation started. So, what I've done here in order to determine what my top 5 are, I've created a sophisticated algorithm to evaluate all the races, taking into consideration their mechanics, their theme, locations, enemies, variety of play styles, units. And so this is 100% objective based on scientific fact. Moving along. The interesting thing is that when I thought about this and I came up with my top 5, I actually realized there was one race that I was genuinely surprised that it got left off the list. So there you go. I sometimes even surprise myself. Anyway, I ramble, I know, so I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into this list. Starting at number 5, we have a newcomer. This is a race that I didn't really start playing until not all that long ago, and I played them in a Let's Play on this channel, and I frankly didn't do all that great, but I've learned since then, and what I've realized is the more I play them, the more I really like them. So number 5, the newcomer on the list is, if I can find them here, there we go. The Chaos Dwarfs. I'm using the mod that changes their names. It took me a second to find them here. So the Chaos Dwarfs. All right, so what is it that is so great about the Chaos Dwarfs? Number 1, the theme of these guys is just really good. I really like this. I like to think of them as Babylon and Assyria and Sumeria. They're obviously based on that part of the world and that era of history. But anyway, just really flavorful. I love the fact that they have their own language. I like the aesthetic. Anyway, I think the main thing, setting aside the theme, the main thing that most players, I believe, would probably agree on is that the mechanics for these guys are really well done. I do think this is one of the better DLCs that CA introduced. Obviously, they're one of the newest. I guess they are the newest race to have been added to the game. I think just CA did a really good job with these guys. The way that you've got these additional currencies and you have to kind of learn how to balance them, I think really well done. And also, they have really fun units. I mean, obviously this is very subjective, but the first time that I saw the blunderbusses in action, for example, it's hard to not just immediately fall in love with them. They kind of rival the Ratling guns in terms of being one of my favorite units of that sort, missile unit to play with. So anyway, really strong infantry. I love the fact that you can use the Hellforge to make them stronger. It's just an all-around well done mechanic, the way that everything kind of works together for this race. Now, the one thing that holds these guys back, the reason that they're only number 5 on this list, is that to me, there's not that much of a difference between the 3. They have a little bit unique in terms of their faction effects and lord effects, but to me, a Chaos Dwarfs campaign feels kind of similar regardless of which of these 3 that you play. They're all in basically the same part of the world. They have different starting enemies, but it's not very long before they'll start running into some of the same enemies overall. I think of the 3 of them, I don't know, to me, it kind of feels like Zatan has probably the easiest start because the other 2, in my experience, have fairly challenging starting enemies. So you've got Astragoth, who is wedged in between Grimgor and the possibility of going to war with Arbol right away. So that can if either one of those goes to war on you in the really early game, you can be in a lot of trouble. Drazoith, not quite as bad, but Imrik really doesn't like you. I've had Clan Rictus declare a war on me right away. All right, anyway, enough said about the Chaos Dwarfs. Otherwise, this video is going to take forever. So let's go back then to number 4. The number 4 on Michael's list is the Warriors of Chaos. All right, so Warriors of Chaos, again, really good mechanics, another very good addition, or I should really say a rework that CA made back when Immortal Empires came out. They've got, I'm just going to make one note of their mechanics, which is they've got that really cool upgrade system, the promotions of units, but unfortunately, I do feel like in vanilla, they didn't implement it as cleanly as they could have. I don't personally like how, yes, you can promote your Marauders up to Chaos Warriors, your Chaos Warriors up to Chosen, and your Chosen up to Aspiring Champions. I mean, that's a really cool system. Unfortunately, you can also just straight up recruit all of the above. So I'll talk about that here a little bit more in a second, but they do have really good unit variety. The fact that there's a fair amount of different theme and flavor because these cover all of the different Chaos gods, plus some of your Undivided. They have pretty unique, well fleshed out personalities. I love Festus, for example. You have a little bit of, speaking of variety, you have a little bit of variety in terms of your starting location. With Festus, you're all the way down in the Empire. The others all, I guess, except for Be'lakor, they're all up in the the northern wastes area, but the Chaos Wastes. But still, spread all the way across from west to east. So you've got a fair amount of variety in your location. They're very flavorful. But going back to why they're not higher on the list, number one, they're too OP. So what I tend to do whenever I play them is I try to figure out ways to restrict them in some way. Lately, what I've been doing, and this refers back to the mechanics that are well done for the most part, but not exactly. What I tend to do is I basically say, all right, any units that can be promoted, or I should say, any units that are that are available via the promotion system, I'm not allowed to recruit them directly. So in other words, I usually, when I'm playing as Archaon, or really like the Kolek campaign that I started recently that I'm not going to be able to continue with because this was an SFO Kolek campaign, and that's going to have to obviously go on hold with the new patch coming out. Anyway, but what I did is I made a restriction here where I basically said, I'm not allowed to recruit any Chaos Warriors or any Chosen or any Aspiring Champions, but instead I'm going to have to recruit Marauders and level them up and only get those better units through the promotion system. To me, that feels like how it should have been all along. I don't really understand why CA made it so that they created this really nice promotion system and then made you not have to use it. Okay, anyway, so those are the first two, Chaos Dwarfs and Warriors of Chaos. Now here's where the list gets more subjective. I mean, obviously the whole thing is subjective, but I think these top three are where I even debate with myself about whether I've listed these in the right order. So let's move on now to what I am listing as my third favorite race, and that is the Dwarfs. Okay, so these guys have been around forever. You either love them or you don't. I've just kind of always loved the Dwarves. Well, when they got their rework with the, I guess it was in Thrones of Decay, with the Age of Reckoning system, they got Malachi added. These guys, I really think, shine right now. I think the Grudges are awesomely thematic. They're really easy to get yourself immersed into different and even sometimes spontaneous objectives in the middle of a campaign based on those grudges. I just really love how, the grudge mentality is so flavorful for the dwarves. The Age of Reckoning is quite well done. It encourages you to keep fighting, but you're not unless you're like completely relying on the grudge settler units, you can get away within the early game not being able to get real high on the Age of Reckoning system. But it does, like I said, it does motivate you to try to fight a lot of battles, and it fits in very well with their theme. Like I said, they've got very cool airships. They've got great artillery. They've got really good, they're all slow for the most part, obviously, but they've got really good units all around. Objectively speaking, I almost feel like these guys should probably be number one because I just think the way that this race is implemented into the game is so well done. I could easily see putting them at number one. But I'm not going to. They're only number three on my list. All right, so I think by the way, of these, all of these dwarfs, I like playing as all of them. I've probably played more campaigns as Thorgrim than any other. I've probably played Grombrindal the least, but I do still like him. But I'm just a really big fan of Thorek, and probably more so. I love Quarreler units in the early game. They're just compared to some of the gunpowder units, they're less flaky, I guess. It's harder it's not as easy to accidentally get them, to not behave the way that you want them to basically not shoot when you want them to, because they can shoot over the heads of the front line. They can shoot over slight inclines in the ground, and obviously some of the gunpowder units struggle with some of that stuff. But anyway, I just really like Quarreler units in the early game. Thorek obviously buffs them, but he's I don't know, I like his part of the world that he starts out in, so I also benefit probably from the fact that his campaign was the very first campaign I ever did on this channel, and it was a really good campaign. It was very fun. It was pretty, I think, popular amongst the early people. If those of you who have been around me with this channel for that long can remember that one. So anyway, just big fan of this guy. I really like Malachi. He's in a difficult position to start with. He's got some fun mechanics, but I need to give his campaign another try because I've only played him the one time, and as much as I enjoyed it, I actually kind of shot myself in the toe by thematically giving him a weird kind of constraint when I played him, and so I ended up losing that campaign like I knew I would. I knew when I created that, but anyway, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to race number 2, which is probably not going to surprise very many of you, at least those of you who have been around for a while. Number 2 is Nurgle. Kind of the same thing as with the dwarfs. They really benefited from what I think was the best DLC that this game has had, or really any of the Warhammer games have had. So the atmosphere of these guys is probably what appeals to me the most. Now, Warhammer 3 was a game that was focused on demons and the fight against the demons, and to me, there's really no argument. These are the best implemented of any of the demon factions. They are now. I mean, I think a lot of people would have argued, and even I would have admitted that they were very flawed when Immortal Empires first came out. But since the Thrones of Decay DLC, these are now the best implemented of any of the demons. So they're the beneficiaries of the best DLC. They already happened to be my favorite thematically from the very beginning. So I was really happy to see that they got a very good rework in Thrones of Decay. I understand their aesthetic does not appeal to everybody, but I think for a lot of us, for those people who aren't turned off by this aesthetic, it's actually really gorgeous in game. All right. And of course, I also had a really fun, successful Kugath campaign, as I believe that was the second campaign I ever started on this channel. That one went for a really long time, was a successful, I think I got the short campaign victory after who knows how many episodes, 50 or 60 or 80 or whatever. But anyway, it went on a very long time and was a rousing success from my point of view. I've also done both of the others. Tamarkand was a pretty fun campaign, although I felt like he was a little bit overpowered. Epidemius, I'm still in the middle of his campaign. I've really enjoyed all three of these, but I kind of do feel like both of these guys are actually a little bit overpowered. They thematically fit very well, but Kugath I think might still be my favorite because he's he's in a unique starting situation strategically, and he feels a little bit less overpowered than the other two do, which is something that I actually like. Okay, all right. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the number one best faction from my point of view, my favorite faction in this game. I did mention this in a video not too long ago, but my favorite faction, if I can find them, I think they're Cloven something here on this list. The Cloven ones right there. The Beastmen. Okay. And again, obviously this is subjective. So I really love the unique play style of these guys. It doesn't hurt that I really liked the cinematic that came out that showed Kolek, not Kolek, that showed, I'm sorry, Khazrak here attacking the Empire. It was just a very cool cinematic that immediately got me hooked on these guys. But it's the play style. This is, I think, the best of the Horde implementation in any of the races. Yes, they are kind of powerful, but what's very cool about them is basically that you can go anywhere and do anything, and so you basically have the ultimate replayability with these guys. It makes sense thematically, obviously, for Khazrak to try to dominate the Empire, but you don't have to. You could head over in any direction, and the way that this mechanic, the way that this faction works is, you can very easily do that, setting up herd stones along the way. You can go the whole way across the world if you wanted to. You don't really even need to worry about your herd stones. They're nice that they're there, but you lose a herd stone, as long as you keep your armies, you're still in pretty good shape. The way that they're focused on being able to use hidden encampment stands, and so they can kind of move around the map almost at will with fairly low risk. I just really love the way that all that works. The Dread system is really well done. It's a single currency that you use for just all kinds of things in this faction, and I like that. It forces you as the player to really have to make difficult decisions about what you want to spend your Dread on as you are as you're building up your empire, trying to unlock additional armies, trying to get new heroes, trying to get better units into your armies. I think the mechanic works really well. The theme is very cool. Like I said, I fell in love with these guys ever since the opening cinematic. I don't really have a favorite. I did have a Khazrak campaign on this channel that I really enjoyed, but it probably wasn't one of the more popular ones. I have a feeling that a lot of people don't really care for the Beastmen aesthetic. I think, honestly, my favorite is probably Morgur. So, and the reason I like him, I just love, I don't know, his early game. I love that that effect that he has. It's sort of an AoE damaging effect. That's very cool. Also, I used to live in Spain, so I just love this area of the world. This is Warhammer Spain, where he starts out. So, yeah, anyway, but I love them all. I played a Torox campaign most recently of any of them. That was really fun. Crazy because all of the AI factions all teamed up against me. You had Alithanar and Malekith working together, not fighting each other. Both of them were just single-mindedly coming after me. It turned into a really fun campaign. But, all right, anyway. So those are my top 5 races. I know probably none of you would have the same list that I do, but I think it could be maybe interesting to start a conversation. The race that I mentioned that I'm really surprised that, before I stopped to think about it, if you had asked me, would this race be on your top 5, I would have for sure said yes. And that, of course, would have been Children of the Horned Rat. There we go, the Skaven. Okay, so yeah, I am a little surprised that these guys did not make my top 5. They certainly would have back in Warhammer 2. I guess it's safe to say that, and probably in the early days of Warhammer 3 as well. But I think the fact that they haven't had any additions or really any significant changes since Throth the Unclean probably means that they've gotten a little bit stale at this point. Some of the other races have passed them by. I still think they're an excellent race. I think these guys are a lot of fun. And the thing that I really like about the Skaven is each of the legendary lords has different mechanics, which does very much make them feel different than the others. Tretches aren't great. I'll give you that. And Queeks are pretty vanilla at this point, although I have a fondness for Queek. Skrulk is a little too vanilla. He definitely, the way that his plagues work, I preferred it actually back when the plagues actually did more damage than they do now. They've been nerfed pretty considerably. But I love this little guy. My instinct is for him to be my favorite of the Skavens. But anyway, these other three, really well done. Ikiclaw, I don't think I need to go into the reasons why Ikiclaw has is very popular. Clan Eshin, a completely different play style than Ikiclaw would be. So I like the variety that the Skaven provide. The same thing goes with Throth the Unclean. Really good mechanics that are introduced. They probably just need to use the term that CA used, that the devs used in yesterday's dev blog. These guys probably need to be Warhammer 3ified, because they're probably kind of stale at this point. They probably need to be brought more in line with what's balanced and consistent with the way everything else has worked in the last couple of years. But anyway, very curious to hear what you all think, not just of my list, of course, but I'd like to hear your lists as well. Have no idea how long this video ran. This is not scripted. This was just me kind of rambling off the top of my head. If people hate this video, please go ahead and mention that in the comments. Smash the dislike button if you don't like this kind of video, so that I know not to keep making them. But yeah, this is one of the few ideas that I had that I'm probably going to do a series of 2 or 3 different videos that are kind of along this, in the similar style here. Because like I said, this is kind of a lull in the game right now while we're waiting for the next patch to drop. But anyway, I think with that, I'll go ahead and say thank you to all of you who are still with me after all this rambling. Let me know your ideas. Like I said, let me know what your favorites are. And the next video I'm going to do is actually going to be the legendary lords that I have never played, and the reasons why I've never played them. But anyway, try to get that one done in the next day or so. But look forward to hearing from all you guys. I will see you all in the next video.